Hello class, welcome to our new unit. Our first lesson is on solving algebraic equations. Please make sure you take good notes. Here's our first slide. So here we're going to use substitution to solve simple algebraic equations. And remember, expressions didn't have this, but equations have them. Equations must have an equal sign. Okay, so the figure below shows a balance scale. So equations are like a balance scale. So this is like an equal sign in the middle. So we have to find the value of x such that the left side balances the right side. And so we can show this equation as being x plus 5 equals 8. So this is x plus 5 equals 8. So what can x equal to make both sides balanced, to make them both equal? Okay, so remember that comes from equal. Alright, so you can think of an equation as a balance scale where the left side is always balanced by the right. So same thing as what I just said. Okay, so make sure you copy this down, and we're going to use substitution in this first method. Here's the next slide. So to solve the equation, you need to find the value of x that makes x plus 5 equals 8 true. So we're going to plug in numbers. So if x equals 1, does that equal 8? So we're going to plug in 1. So x plus 5, that's this side. We're going to see if when we plug 1 in, does it equal 8? And in this case, it does not equal 8, it equals 6. So if x equals 2, x plus 5, we plug in our 2 plus 5, that equals 7. That also does not equal 8. Okay, and in this next instance, we say if x equals 3, well, if x plus 5, we're going to plug in 3 for x, 3 plus 5, that does equal 8. So the equation x plus 5 equals 8 is true when x equals 3. So then x equals 3 is the solution, this is a vocab word, solution of the equation x plus 5 equals 8. And you guys know that the answer is 3. Okay, so this is substitution. So it's like guess and check. Alright, let's try the next slide. So here's another equation. Please write this down in your notebook. We have 3x equals 12. Well, what can x be? Remember, 3x means 3 times x. So what times 3 equals 12? Well, we know, of course, that 3 times 4 equals 12. Okay, so here's our balance equation. And so to solve the equation, you need to find the value of x that makes 3x equals 12 true. And we know that our solution will be x equals 4. Okay, so you can try your solution and then go back and see if it is true. So 3 times 4 is 12. Yes, that is true. Okay, here we go. Next slide. So I want you to pause this video and try these 6 problems on your own. Alright, so let's see what you have. What number, or p, plus 6 equals 13? So in this instance, p equals 7. 7 plus 6 equals 13. Let's try the next one. So if we have r plus 4 equals 12, well, what number can we substitute for r, which would make this true? So what number plus 4 equals 12? And we know that r then equals 8. 8 plus 4 equals 12. Okay, so let's try the next one. K minus 10 equals 7. So we can figure out what number minus 10 equals 7. Well, we know that 17 minus 10 equals 7. So then K must equal 17, right? So then we can go back and check. So 17 minus 10 equals 7. Look at that. Okay, so let's try a couple more. So 2 times what number? Remember, this is 2m, so 2 times this number equals 6. So we know that 2 times 3 equals 6, so m equals 3. Okay, and let's try this next one. 4 times what number equals 20? So we know that n equals 5. And this last one, this is a little bit tricky, but we can still do it. So 1/5 times z times what number will give us 3? Well, we know that to make 1, if we wanted to equal 1, we would need 5 1/5, right? Because we know that 5 1/5 times that equals 1 whole. So what do we need to do to make it 3? Well, we can multiply this number by 15, or by 3, excuse me, and we get 15. So we can check it. 1/5 times 15, and we know the denominator is going to be 1, and that equals 15, because 1 times 15 is 15. 5 times 1 is 5. We can divide. 15 divided by 5 is 3, and that is true. So Z equals 15. And if you need to re-watch this section, please make sure you do. Here's the next slide. All right, so in our first method, we use substitution. In the second method, we're using our balance method. So this is how we actually solve instead of using substitution. So follow along with me, and if you need to re-watch any of this, please make sure you do. So if we're adding or subtracting, we know that these are inverses of each other. So they are the opposite. So if we're solving the equation x plus 6 equals 9, well, here's our balance scale, right? So when you remove 6 counters from the left, so we are going to use the opposite of plus 6. We're going to make it minus 6 now. So from the original equation, we're going to subtract 6. Now, if you subtract 6 from one side, you need to subtract it from the other side also. You need to do the same thing to both sides. Okay, so if you do it to only one side, the scale becomes unbalanced. So you need to do the opposite to both sides. And so the purpose of this is to isolate our variable, to get this x, our variable, by itself. So isolate means to get something by itself. All right, so to make it alone. So to make it alone, we need to do the inverse of whatever we have over here next to our variable. And so the inverse of plus 6 is minus 6. And whatever we do to one side, we must do to the other. Okay, and we're going to continue this problem on the next slide. So compare this with 3 plus 6 equals 9. So you already know the answer of x plus 6 equals 9. You know the answer is 3. But in order to figure it out algebraically, we're going to subtract 6 from this side and subtract 6 from this side. When we do this, this cancels it out. So this equals nothing now. So now x is by itself. So now we have x equals, and we have to solve this side now. 9 minus 6 is 3. And so instead of doing substitution, now we can do it this way also. So we can say that x equals 3 because we did the inverse operation. So instead of doing plus 6, we now do minus 6 to both sides, and so x is equal to 3. So let's look over here. And so they show how they did the work, right? So they subtracted 6 from both sides, and so 3 is by itself, and yes, this is true, right? So their note, they say you can subtract the same number from both sides of the equation, and the two sides will remain equal. Please write this down. So you must do the same thing to both sides, whatever it is. So write this down. Whatever you do to one side, you must, and you must do this or else it will be unbalanced. You must do to, the other. Okay, that needs to be in your notebook. Here is the next slide. All right, so in our last slides, we were doing addition and subtraction. Those are inverses of each other. In this slide, we are doing multiplication and division because those are inverses of each other. And so we have 2x equals 12, excuse me. So please make sure you write this in your notebook. So if we're solving this, we're going to put it on a balance scale. And so we're going to say, well, we know 2x means 2 times x, and we want to isolate our variable. So we are going to divide both sides by 2, and we have it down here where it shows it, where they divide both sides by 2. So this is the extra part that they put in. Okay, and you need to write down all these steps in your notebook. So this is the first step. This is your second step. Okay, and so when you do that, the 2's cancel each other out, but you still have this on the other side. So 12 divided by 2 And so x is now by itself. You still have your x, and this is your third step. So you know x equals 6. So your solution be x equals 6. All right? So make sure you pause and write this down. If you need to rewatch it, make sure you do. Here's the next slide. So if you're solving this equation, y divided by 3 equals 4, well, we know y divided by 3, this is division. So we're going to do the opposite, which is multiplication. So look at what they do. So you need to write this in your notebook. This is your first step. Here's your second step. Or here's your first step too. So the opposite of division, the inverse, is multiplication. So they're multiplying both sides by 3 to get rid of this 3. So now y is by itself. And so then 4 times 3 is 12. Okay, so here's your check. You're going to substitute 12 back in to the value of y for the equation to see if it is true. So 12, when y equals 12, the equation y divided by 3 equals 4. So 12 divided by 3, yes, that is true. And so that is correct. Y equals 12. Your solution is 12. So here's your math note. This is just another way to say it. So compare this with 12 divided by 3 equals 4. And so this is, again, the work that we did over here. Make sure that it's in your notebook. And so you can say, you can write this down in your notebook, you can multiply both sides of the equation by the same number, and the two sides will remain equal. So this is like what we were saying before. Whatever you do to one side, you must do to the other. All right? And if you need to rewatch any of this, please make sure you do. Here is your homework for tonight. So you have numbers 2, 3, 5, 6, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and I will see you tomorrow. Please make sure you do it and rewatch any of the sections that you need to. I will see you tomorrow.